Welcome to the teaser episode of the Pedro and Hannibal podcast. Now, this is a special teaser because it's not the official show, right, Pedro?
Correct.
By the way, my name is Hannibal, and
My name is Pedro.
and I'm hanging out with my boy Pedro, and our official start isn't until the 8th. But we thought it'd be a great idea to just have a little bit of a taste of what exactly we're going to do every week on this show, where we're going to kind of just go on a deep dive of hip hop culture and how it just affects, all of our lives. And it's
Yeah.
going to be in that unique space. So we decided to give all the early listeners, and we appreciate every single one of you who decided to jump on early with us, just to get a little taste of what's to come. I'm extremely excited. What about you, Pedro?
Man, I've been waiting for this all day, man. I've been waiting to break down what we're about to talk about all day. I've been listening to this album a lot this last, I guess, 8 days. Came out last Friday. So I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
Yes. And what we're going to be talking about in the theme, I mean, I'm sure if you already been you checking us out and you love hip hop, you already have at least checked out at least a little bit of the new Kendrick Lamar album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. His last entry in the current, I guess, deal that he has with TDE, Top Dog Entertainment. And this has been something that was happening for a while now, and everyone would have thought, like, what kind of album this is going to be. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. It's going to be, we're not breaking down rhyme schemes. Now, if you already know, he's better than most rappers, 95% of rappers out there. Right?
Sure.
Like, this is not about with the rhyme schemes and everything, but we can compare it to the last albums he had, the last four. Was it four at this point? And I want you to, if you know, Pedro, if you already have in your head, in this hierarchy, like, Damn, To Pimp a Butterfly, even Section 80.
Good Kid, Mad City.
Yes. Where would you put it, this ranking system? We'll do it at the very end. We'll do it at the very end, though.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool.
But we're going to talk about this album, and the theme, to me, and I think we talked about this before, the generational trauma that Kendrick has gone through, and I feel like this album is like therapy for him. It's a very deep, personal album, and I think all the other albums he had, it's always been kind of personal, but this one is like very, very therapeutic for him. I think for people who listen, that he is expressing some really deep issues that he went through. We all kind of go through.
No, I agree, man. 100%. I feel like his prior albums, he gave us some of that, right? He's always been real introspective. You can tell he's a deep thinker, whatever that means to anybody or him. But he always gave us glimpses into his childhood and sharing some certain things. And I feel like, for me at least, I look at it like he knew he had some trauma. He knew he had maybe a rough upbringing. He's been through a lot. His family's been through a lot generationally, right? It didn't just start with him. Maybe his parents and his parents' parents, right? And his parents' parents. And now he's to the point with this album. It's like, okay, he he had some light bulb moments. He realized that things happen around him within the hip hop community, whether it's Nipsey Hussle or other people. He sees how Kanye West has been acting. He sees what Will Smith just did. And it's like, you know what? Like, I feel like this whole album is just him walking into a therapy session, sitting on a couch and going.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's moments within this whole album where he's like sitting on the couch and he's just sharing and spilling his guts, and he's forgiving people. He's, realizing some things, and he's challenging the community of men out there to, what's your story? Have you thought about it? Have you forgiven? Have you not forgiven? Have you, do you understand why your parents did this? Why your aunt might have did this? Why your uncle did or didn't do this? And I feel like it's a whole therapy session for him. That, he's talking that whole song with his girl, that was so different, so it just, and that to me even feels like a therapy session. I've actually done therapy with my ex-wife, years ago. And we've had a similar conversation with a therapist sitting across from me. So it just feels like a whole therapeutic album for me. That's how I view it. And, it'd be interesting to see what other people thought about it, because I haven't read any other blogs or seen anything. I went into this completely empty, so I don't know what people are talking about the album really, besides that it's just good. So
yeah, I when the album first came out, everyone was blown away by it. I think it's generally, I think everyone is high marks. I'm sure it's going to definitely be like a Grammy nominated, at least Grammy nominated. He may win it.
It has to, if he doesn't get a nomination, something's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. He hasn't dropped in how many years? 5 years? I forgot.
I think it's been something like that.
Yeah. So this was like highly anticipated. I don't think I think there may be some surprises. They may have thought that this could have been had more radio hit kind of performances. But let's be honest, these last 2 years hasn't been the most happiest of moments for all of us, right? It's been, you have some pockets of good stuff, but I'm sure when you're by yourself, as if I'm right now, like I got, I'm kind of in a quarantine situation right now. Like, it's a lot of time to think because you can't really do too much. So I think he definitely sat there and thought about a lot of stuff. But before I even go into the album, I want to talk about like my 4 favorite rappers, right? And I got a lot of favorites, but I like the way they carry themselves in and out of the public eye. And the 4 that I like to talk about is Kendrick, J. Cole, Nas, and Jay-Z. You don't notice that they goof off on the public or post stupid stuff or seem to be immature. They have families. Kendrick has 2 kids. I think J. Cole is a father. Obviously Nas and Nas and Jay-Z, I'm sure younger. They obviously went through some stuff, but at least bit older now. They are like, businessmen, investors. They're not necessarily they're adults. They grown, they matured. So it's like go ahead.
Those guys been in this game for a long time too. Nas has been doing it since he's like 17 or something, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, Jay-Z kind of came out a little later, but like, but those guys have been, so I think they've seen the whole circle of like, all right, now I'm going to talk about women and this and that and money and drugs, but then now I'm going to talk about the art I have in my gallery and my mansion. Like it's a whole nother level with some of those guys.
They had to grow up because they were doing both of them, especially feuding with each other. Yeah, it definitely could have went crazy, but I like how they carry themselves now. And J. Cole and Kendrick are not old, but
no,
you could tell they really understand what's important in life. Like that's where, and I think that's where it comes right into this album.
Yeah.
And let's just jump into it. With the first line of, United with Grief, I've been going through something.
Yeah.
Like
it's a
powerful, he tells you right there. Yeah, he tells you that right there that, he has had therapy. And absolutely. I am really happy. Yeah, I'm really happy that people are the stigmatizing effect is kind of getting pulled back. Like, no, if you need help, you go get professional help.
Yeah.
Sometimes your friends and family don't have the skills to help in that realm.
Sometimes they can hurt.
Exactly.
Sometimes they can hurt because sometimes your friends and family will tell you what you want to hear versus what you need to hear, or your friends and family might be the ones that gave you some of the trauma, right? And they don't know how to. If that's the case, they're not going to be able to help you. So, yeah, you have to within communities, within especially minority communities. Hispanic community, Black communities, therapy is looked upon as it's like shameful to do it. It's looked upon as a weakness. You're soft, right? If you go to, that's at least from my side, that's what I hear, right? But when you get it's when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, like I think he is in this album and how he has been, at least he's tried to been maybe in his life, right?
Yeah.
And when you're like that, great things can happen, but you have to go through some pain, and then you have to go through some pain in therapy because it's hard things you're dealing with and emotions and trauma. And then maybe you can come out of that with some kind of understanding of yourself and forgive yourself a little bit. And, like you learn your generational things, because a lot of people that have certain issues, there's a lot of shame attached with it, but that shame, you have to sometimes try to let go. And I think he's working through some of that within this album is how I see it.
Yeah. And, I'm thinking about the idea of what is generational trauma or I guess I looked it up. It's basically a cycle of something going on. You say abuse, obviously things are going in and it kind of goes throughout the cycle of a family. Yeah. So unfortunately, there's situations where domestic violence could be a generational thing where even after, you know, you've seen your parents go through physical fights, then as an adult, you are physically fighting with your significant other. And it's because you probably, that person hasn't seen how a healthy relationship is supposed to even look like.
Yeah.
So you think that's the way it should work.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the way someone demonstrates love. Like even with the song "We Cry Together," where if you've only seen your parents argue and fight, but then they get back together because they love each other, and then
It
you think,
becomes normalized. It becomes normalized.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where that very raw, aggressive, but lyrically, it's a really good song.
So
how they come together.
Is that your because when you told me that was like you listened to that song, I think you said you listened to that one and the first one 10 times, right?
Yeah, I was going back and forth.
Those were the two songs I enjoyed but those aren't the ones I listened to that much because that the is it the We Cry Together? Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
I listened to it and I listened to it more since, but when I didn't know what to think of it at first because it felt like an interlude kind of song. It didn't, it's not like a song. It's not a traditional hip hop song, which is
no, it's not. That's probably the first reason why I was into it. Yeah, it was something totally different.
I didn't gravitate toward as much because, and maybe that's even my own, because listen, Hannibal, I've had too many conversations like that were almost identical, plus minus a few words here and there, choice words, right? But like, for me, it was like a little hard to listen to. I was intrigued. I was like, what is this? Like, what's he trying to do here? And then as I listened to it second, third time, I'm like, all right, I get it. And I got from that, they were both made really good points. Within that dialogue, they're both making very good points. He's talking about he keeps doing, I held you up and now you held me down and this, like, and the things that she was saying with so much passion. I can feel like she was quivering in the song, like almost crying, like so angry, right? So mad. And the things a woman can say to a man, I've heard those same things.
Oh,
it's always about like belittling, talking about penis size, and I should have be your cousin, this and that, and you ain't nothing. Like it was like so. It just hit me a little bit because I've heard that.
Because I was going to ask you, the reason why you probably didn't gravitate to that song is it a little bit too uncomfortable?
Maybe, yes.
Like, hey, you know what? I'm trying to chill in my car. Like, I was listening to it too, but sometimes I like to blast some music. Like, I ain't blasting this because this is a bit much.
It's not an easy listen, right? You need to. I think it's good. It's a good listen. I almost think that's a song. A couple that's having issues should listen to, because I think there's some relatability. They could be like, wow, is that how we sound?
Perfect. Yeah, that was going to say.
Is that how we sound? Because in therapy, sometimes if you do couples therapy, they'll sometimes have you record your fights and then bring them into there. Like I've heard that, and then people can see and visually or audio hear themselves and be like, wow, that's bad.
Yeah,
when you're in the moment,
like that person.
You just you're saying all kinds of crap.
Yeah.
Some of it's true, maybe most of it's just hurtful. And for me, I was like, listen, like that's not an easy listen. But I started listening to it more and realizing like that's coming from a place of like Kendrick made that on purpose. He's had that conversation
definitely
many times, right? And he's trying to get it out for himself, but maybe even help couples. And it's a real song, man. It doesn't get much realer than that. Like
because it's not healthy. I mean, that's the first thing I think most of us need to understand, especially in my community, the Black community. We have too many of those conversations.
And then how it ends too.
And how it ends as well. Just walking down the street and seeing couples fight and argue in the middle of the street, screaming at each other. Like we can't continue to have that kind of dialogue with each other if we don't like each other, or not even don't like. You're having a problem, walk away. I'm going to take a break. I'll come back. Now, even my situation, my wife does not want to walk away when we have an argument. She wants us to resolve the argument right there. And I got to be the one to say, hey, listen, let me take a break. Now, we have a little easier to deal with that. I mean, I've been with this woman I'm 38. I was with her since I was 17.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We
That
were those
listen,
weird ones.
that I have to bow down to that. That's impressive. Congratulations for that. That's
Yeah, I don't know how it happened either. But where so she wants to solve it now, and also she was a big debater in high school, so it's the
Oh,
whole thing of we
that's
gotta
tough.
talk about this, and I've came around to her because she understands. She probably knew this before I really understood. The idea is important to have difficult conversations, not yelling though or screaming at each other, but have because I don't like having difficult conversations.
Yeah.
Now I do. I can do it all the time now, but before my 20s, I like just let's pretend this didn't happen.
You want to brush it under the rug. It's easier. It's
It's
easier to
easier.
not think about it and to feel it. It's easier, right? But
Yeah.
then,
But nothing gets resolved though.
nothing gets resolved. It
And it
always
gets
come back.
it gets buried deep and then it pops out of nowhere. So like those conversations are important. We need to have difficult conversations with our friends and family,
Yeah.
especially with a significant other. But you
Well,
don't
and
want
even in that song, real quick,
yeah,
before we go on, it ends with them having sex on the couch, right?
yeah,
So nothing got resolved though, right?
no,
So he leaves it that way on purpose. And I feel like as the album goes along, at the end, his girl and his kid are like, thanks, daddy, for, stopping the generation. It's a progression. Like eventually they get to a place, hopefully, right? But like in that moment, it's more like, I hate you. I'm going to say this. I hate you. I'm going to say that. But we're still going to have sex because that's what we do,
yeah.
right? So that's their normality. And at some point, if you don't fix it, it can't last forever.
No, because they're chasing that drug. Like, because there's certain people out there who just enjoys those kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
Heavy emotional. The adrenaline is there. Obviously, the sex is there. Sex is a drug,
Yeah.
and it's probably exhilarating. But at the end, when you finished, and then the next day is going like nothing changed, and they're still in a not in the best place.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Kendrick kind of illustrated that in a beautiful way. And yeah, like this album, the whole album, if we can go, even it doesn't matter what song we talk about. It's not. Is it for radio play? Like we cry together. We'll probably would not be on any kind of radio.
Maybe what N95. I think he's got a video, and that's on YouTube. So maybe that hits radio, but it's not going to be in heavy rotation. This isn't going to be number one on the pop charts. Like it's not going to be that.
No,
definitely not going to be that.
Yeah. And let's see what like we could look at any other songs that you could throw out.
I'll share a few that I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
I'll share a few that I enjoyed. I mean, N95 is a good one. For some reason, when I first started listening to this album, the song that got to me was Worldwide Steppers, and I don't know necessarily why in the beginning, but as I started like listening to it a little bit more and looking at the lyrics, like some of it just kind of, it got me a little bit,
Okay. Tell me about it.
He's talking about, he's talking about like he thinks he has a problem. He has a moment in the song. He's talking to Whitney. I think I have a problem. I might be racist, or I might be a womanizer. I'm having sex with white women. The first time I did it was this. And he remembers the first time he had sex with a white woman, he was 16. And that was like a significant moment for him. Right.
Yeah.
And he felt like shame or bad. But then there's moments in the song I feel like he thinks he's proud because he found out the girl's dad was a cop or something, and he was like paying it back for his culture, right? Like there's a lot of like this internal battle in that song. He's like wants to have sex with a white woman, but then like he doesn't because she's white. Like there's a lot of layers there for me, right?
Yeah.
And then the second time was like he was on tour and somewhere else and he did it, and it's just like he talks about his like this addiction he has, even throughout in that song and throughout the album with like women, and he's sexting them and texting them. He cheats on. He clearly has cheated on his girl multiple times. He talks about that, right? And like I can relate to some of that. So like when I hear some of the things that he says, it's like, man, like it's hard to hear, because it's uncomfortable, and you need to hear it, but sometimes you're not ready to hear it. So the first time I heard some of these songs, I'm like, wow, that kind of hit me. All right, I got to listen to that again and see why it hit me that way. And like, he's just so raw with it, and he's laying so much of himself out there. You know, it's kind of refreshing. It's hard to hear sometimes, but it's refreshing because it makes you think a little bit. It's not surface level like a lot of this hip hop that we got going on, which is cool. Everybody likes certain things. You bump it in your car, you're at a club. There's a vibe. There's songs for different vibes, but like
Definitely.
for me, this is an album like, all right, for a little bit more mature crowd, maybe, or somebody younger that's going through things, that's looking for some help, that doesn't want to get to a bad spot. But this is an album I'm gonna sit down and maybe sip a little cognac, have my favorite beer, and like listen a little bit and think a little bit, you know. And so I like that one. Father Time is a song that hit me a little bit because he's talking about his relationship with his father, obviously.
Oh, we could deep dive into that one.
Crazy. I think Crown's really good. Anti-Diaries, I thought he really stepped out on a limb on that one a little bit and was talking a lot about things that are even going on now with, you know, transgenders, gays, and like, you know, he's in things within the hip hop community, words that have been loosely used just even 5-10 years ago, 15-20 years ago. And hip hop now, they would never say those words. They'd be canceled. So I feel like he was challenging that a little bit. Like those are just some that kind of stick out to me. Mr. Morale, I think the Mother song. I mean, I've listened to that song more than any. Those are a few that I really enjoyed, but
but just going back to the Worldwide Steppers, the more you're talking about it, the more I'm trying to remember, that was like a confessional. Like he's confessing a lot of stuff. And then also in there, he's talking about how he had writer's block for 2 years. And it's kind of the same thing with the first album. Like he's in therapy, he has writer's block. So it's like there's a lot of reasons of why he didn't come out with tons of songs as we all assume all rappers will do. That he was in a dark place. And I think, Worldwide Steppers, you could tell there's a lot going on with what was going on in his mind. And if you want to jump into Father Time,
oh man,
very, very, I think that's another one we can talk about because, you know, we both are fathers.
Yeah.
And this is another theme in the culture, especially Black culture, like, you know, probably same in your culture, where, you know, as a father, you want to raise your kids to be tough because the world is tough. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's, you know, you may have to deal with racial stuff. You got to deal with, you know, dealing with competition and just of life in general. And you try hard to make them tough, but you basically are making a bad, you're pushing them to weakness. When you say don't express yourself, stop being weak, stop being a girl. And it's not just fathers. I've seen women tell little boys, stop crying. You act like a girl.
Yeah.
Shaming them in front of people, public shaming, screaming at them to a point when they're 20 years old and you bump into them, they're freaking the hell out at you.
Yep. And they think they need to react in a physical way. To express what's going on with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Where I see this all the time when I step outside. Men quick to yell and scream and basically act feminine in that aspect of like, why are you flipping? Like, yo, what's going on?
Yeah.
But if you only been raised around women, where, you know, the father has been gone, those type of, you know, like, and I'm a little bit of a traditionalist. I think it's important to have your mom and father. And not even just mom and, male and female. You need two parents in that.
Well, no, clearly the statistics are going to tell you that if a child is raised with two parents in a home, their measure of success is like tenfold, right? Yeah. But if they have parents, even if they're split up, it's less. But if they're both still active, it's still, you know, better. But if you got a one parent, it's hard, whether it's man or woman, but especially if it's a mom and a young man, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard because you're not getting that connection, that guidance from a male role model. That's your father. It's just tough. You know, it's hard. And, you know, numbers will say that. And I think that song is, you know, we all have our relationships with our dads and we have the things that we wish were better. We have the things I think we might cherish certain moments, but like as men, or I'll speak for myself as a man, I'm always looking for my dad's approval. I'm always looking for him to, you know, like think I did something right. Like even to this day, you know, because that's my dad. You know, I want to show him that I am trying to become a good man, that I am a good man, that he's taught me something, because I feel like I owe that to him, you know?
Right.
I think as
Definitely.
young men and boys, we're always looking for that from our fathers, you know?
And it's, it's, I would say it's easier. All right. Some people may say it's harder to raise kids now because of all of what's going on. I would say it's harder back then, because the reason why I think, and I'm not, blowing smoke up my own ass, but I feel like I'm a better father because I can actually look up something. I can go on the internet and look up something about dynamics with the child, or what should I do about this, or how do I handle stress. YouTube, I learned something. We both have learned so much from YouTube. I mean, we're content creators. We learned so much where back then, dude had to go to the library and read the books and all that. Like, it's easier, in my opinion. So there's so many aspects of being parents that I think as we get older, it's really important to forgive, even when, unless they did something super malicious, or, something, but, if they had the most patience with you. You don't know what they've been through. Then as you get older, you may see that they've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
And you may behave in a way where you're like, okay, that wasn't healthy. What can I do about that? Yeah, I may have seen my parents may do something like that, but how can I do better for my kid? And that's why I think what Kendrick is, again, just dumping all of his emotions out there. It's like, hey, my father told me don't cry, don't do this, don't do that.
Take the gloves off. He references take the gloves off. Like, and he thanks him for that, though.
Yeah.
In the song, he thanks him that his dad was like that in a weird way, right? Like,
right. Like, because there's sometimes like, you try to take a little bit of everything, right? Like, some of the things, like, maybe I should have been more open to emotional, like expressing myself emotionally, like, probably. But to survive where he came from, he may have needed to have that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think,
made it.
Some kids, growing up in a rough neighborhood where it's poverty, might not eat for a day or two. You're seeing a lot of violence. You're seeing drugs. Your uncle's coming in. He's got a gun in his hand. It becomes normal, right? It's just like normal everyday life. You got the pimps and the drug dealers on the streets. You got the women. But then you got somebody in the suburbs. Maybe they don't see that as much, right? So their perspective is different. How they're raised is different. What their being tough looks like could be different from what Kendrick thought was tough.
Right.
And, I think it's interesting, though, because, like, sometimes you can have a parent that can be really, really tough, right? Rub dirt on it. You're a man. Don't do this. Don't cry. You got to act this way. Oh, he punched you. A kid did disrespect you at school. You got to go kick his ass the next day. Like, that's what a man would do. You don't let nobody punk you. You ain't no punk, right? Don't be a punk, right? And you hear that, and then you make, you might react in whatever way, right? But sometimes if you have a parent like that, it doesn't do you any good while you're a kid. But sometimes as you become a man, if you've learned some things, that you learn what not to do when you have a son, because you remember how it made you feel. So you learn what not to do. And some people, they don't get that moment. They don't have that light bulb moment or whatever. And they just continue that because that's their normal. That's what they think is okay. Because they think, oh, I am a man. I'm good. I'm a man. So I'm going to treat my boy. I'm going to raise him just like my dad did because I'm a man. But are you really a man? Like, what, you got your stuff together? Like, you have to really be. Therapy is something that's helped me personally in my life. It still does. I definitely, for people that are ready for it, you have to be ready. You can't just do it to do it. Somebody can't tell you, hey, you should maybe see somebody and talk.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll get angry and defensive because they're not ready yet.
Right.
And they think,
so
again,
you have to, clearly he's done some of that. Clearly people like J. Cole, I'm sure he's talked to somebody because the dude's smart, right? You can tell he's living his own version of his life, his truth, like he can tell he doesn't need attention or somebody else's whatever to tell him that he's good. He's good in what he does. You can see it with certain men.
Yeah.
Right. And that song's, it's a wild song. And I think in a lot of communities, like you said in the beginning, they grow up without a strong father figure, right? Because you can have your dad around, but is he a strong father figure? Is he present? Is he not present?
Yeah.
What is he sharing you? Do you see him once a week? There's a lot of different variables with having a dad,
it's funny you brought that up in terms of smart people understanding they need some kind of therapy. Like, I don't know if you remember this, and I'll just jumping in a whole different topic, but just real quick, when I don't think it was the last time the Lakers won a championship, but it was the one where Ron Artest, by his the name Meta World Peace.
Meta World Peace, yeah.
When he won the championship, one of the things he thanked was his psychologist.
He right on the court.
Right at the court. He's like, right on the court. And that dude came from,
bad neighborhood.
Yeah, Brooklyn. I mean, yeah. Malice out of the Palace. I mean, we all seen that. I mean, I saw that live. I was playing Xbox Live, and someone was like, yo, watch the Indiana Pacers. I mean, the Pistons game. Like, who cares? All right. You're like, and they're like, oh,
crazy.
It was mad.
I remember that, man. I remember that.
It kind of, I don't know. I guess saying it ruined his career a little bit, where the money he was supposed to get, people just thought he was a thug.
Yeah, I think he lost the whole year of basketball. I think he got suspended for like a year or something.
Yeah. And the fact that he was able to go back, go to LA, and Kobe took, probably like, yo,
Kobe wanted him there. Because Artest played for the Rockets, and the Rockets and the Lakers were, rivals. And Kobe's like, I need Ron Artest. I need a tough dude. I need a defender.
No one would mess with Ron Artest. Nobody. I mean,
I remember when he did that. Yeah, he thanked his therapist, his psychologist. I mean, and he did it with so much joy. I remember there was no shame in admitting he was completely. I feel like he was completely happy. He reached the pinnacle of his professional career,
and he helped that. He was vital for that championship.
He hit a big three. Just a bench guy. He hit a big three in that game. Yeah. So definitely. I mean, that to me. The Ron Artest from Indiana would not, if they would have won a championship, he doesn't respond in that same way.
No,
because he wasn't, he wasn't.
He was probably a better player. Yeah. Obviously, he was younger. Like that dude could ball. Like he was able to score, defend. He was able to do a lot of stuff, but he just wasn't there because. And I don't know if you've seen his documentary, but he been through some stuff, man.
I haven't seen his
depression, all that. So. It gets going back to the idea of the importance of therapy and in the community. A lot of us, we just fall in this prison mindset. Now, if you know people who've been in prison, my wife, she worked at a correctional officer for 2 years. You just live in the hood. Everything is based on living in prison is not living in outside, like in reality, like because it's even more of a jungle fight. Like you have to be tough. Like if they see you as weak, you will be taken advantage of. Yeah. So you can't have a balanced view or perspective on things in prison.
Well, it's a different world. It's a different
world.
It's a whole nother. It's a different world.
But the problem is if your culture is based on your father, uncle, brothers, cousins coming in and out of jail. Can they turn that off when they leave jail, to leave prison to live a normal life? Or as soon as they come out, you bump into them, they take it as a perceived threat or disrespect. Because that's one word they love using in prison, respect. You gotta respect me. He disrespected me. No, you gotta respect me as a man. That's another thing too. Respect me as a man. That's that code. Mm-hmm. But it's skewed. It's like, do you have to always have to fight? Like, there has to be some level of balance, and there's no balance in many of the, low income neighborhoods out there. It's just it's all about, I don't care about nothing but respect. I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, like, well, do you care about this person enough that bumped into you?
Yeah. Is it worth it? He owes me $20 from last year. Is it really worth? You know what I mean? Like, but that's what, I was born in Chicago, man. Like I was born in rough area, moved to New Jersey for 1 year, moved to St. Louis. Most of my life I've been in St. Louis, but during the summers I'd go to Chicago, and my cousins were all bangers. Yep. Okay. Gangster disciples. Right. And they were Puerto Rican. So that was weird because you had the Latin Kings, but in the neighborhood they grew up in was all black. So there were GDs. Yeah. They would have these meetings, whatever. Cabrini Green's project before it got shut down. I remember I'm a 10, 11-year-old kid in a van with 17, 18-year-old, 20-year-old men. And I'm like, thinking this is the best thing ever. I'm thinking I'm cool, you know, I'm thinking I'm down. I mean, I had no idea what was going on, but you see a lot, and you see a lot of men basically just trying to, you see men trying, you see boys trying to be men,
Right.
acting, you know, but doing things because they ain't got no money, because the families ain't got money. So they got to do this, they got to do that, right? And you can't get punked on the street because then you're not going to be able to get the girls. You're not going to be able to get money. Like the punks don't get the girls. Like it's just this weird dynamic in the inner cities of like the priority that is put on of being a certain way, right? And being a man of respect. And I gotta have this. I gotta have this kind of clothes. I gotta have the girls need to notice me. And then like it seems like at least in my neighborhoods that I would see those kind of guys typically by the time they got to the 30s and 40s, they're still doing the same stuff they were doing when they were 17.
True.
And the kids in the nerds or whatever, not the cool kids, those are the ones that are usually successful later in life, right? Because they were focused on other things. They didn't care what people thought. They didn't care that they had the Air Jordans or the Jabot jeans. Like they could care less about that stuff, right? Yeah. And the ones that did care at a young age, either in prison, they're probably dead, or they're still in the hood doing the same shit that they were doing when they were 17 years old.
It's unfortunate because sometimes I
got cousins that are still like that.
There's so many kids out there that never had a chance to even know what the right thing to do. Yeah. Sometimes it's by luck. I feel like life is it's a chaotic thing that sometimes does not make sense, because that young kid that's out there, whether it's in the hood in Chicago or he's in Brownsville and Brooklyn, how would they know what the right thing is if they're in an environment where there is no right way? Everything is this way that we all know. And we want a sense of community. If your father's in jail and your mom is working 2 jobs to support you out in the street is basically your father now. Like
that's why they get into the gangs. That's why the gangs, you need some kind of brotherhood. You need family, right?
Yeah. And you may meet across some of these gang members who are exploiting people. They're going to exploit these young men to do the things they need to get done because they're sociopaths and they don't care about you, but they need you to do A, B, and C. Yeah. Like, what's the difference between that and Iran terrorists taking young kids and take this strap on, go over there and because you're gonna go to heaven with 40 like all those type of things it's funny how we cannot really separate ourselves between like men and belonging, because even like that that terrorist situation, they're telling you, hey, listen, you do this, you're gonna be a hero. Yeah. Now, mind you, you're probably 17, 18 years old. You have no wife, no kids, no money, no status, but this older dude in his 40s or 50s that looked up to you and probably fed you and took care of you a little bit and say, hey, listen, you'll be a hero if you do this. Yeah. What, we could probably sit there, hell no, I ain't doing that. That sounds stupid. But
yeah, but a kid being told that and believing that probably doesn't have a strong male role model in his life.
Definitely.
So he is easily manipulated by somebody that appears to be a role model, but is not, because they have a different agenda, right? And that's, most people aren't going to be able to come out like Kendrick Lamar. They're not going to be able to come out and be a successful hip hop star that is, thoughtful, makes mistakes, but he's human, tries to fix it because he has a son, a family. He doesn't want his son to go through the same things. Most people, it's rare, unfortunately, within communities that you could come from that and stop the generational curse. It's really rare. It's unfortunate. And I think now we're shifting, like you said earlier, like you talked about, you're a little more traditional, right? But like now we're shifting towards this, like everybody cares about feelings and this and that. And, some people don't like that, right? Because they're like, oh, we're getting too soft. America's too soft now. We care about feelings and this, and everybody should be loved and happy, and everybody should have a voice. Some people don't like that, right? Yeah. But then a lot of people do. It's tough because it's like, where's sometimes I don't know what's better. And I think it just depends on your family and like, what's important to you, because like you want to, everybody should be heard. Everybody should have feelings. Everybody should be able to people use the word safe place, and schools now are changing their curriculum to make sure kids are feeling good about themselves. And some people are like, that's not right? And some people are like, no, we need that because kids need to be heard. And they, it's just we're in this weird place. We're 80s babies, right? We pretty much grew up in the 80s, early 90s. Not everybody got ribbons. If my basketball team didn't play well, we didn't get a ribbon. Now everybody gets a ribbon. So it's like, is there value in that?
Yeah.
Because a kid gets something that they, who maybe they're not good at basketball, but they got a ribbon. So it's like, okay, well, I did go to practice every day. I've tried my best. I want to show something. I want to put something on my wall. Is that the wrong message to send? Well, I don't know. It's, it's interesting because like not everybody can be Kendrick Lamar. Like some people not everybody's that tough minded to understand their flaws, their history, think about it, get help. Some people need to be coddled. Others need to be treated more rough. Like the kid that gets the bow for the basketball team that finished in 29th place, he might go on to do great things because he saw that kindness was given to him.
Right.
But the kid that doesn't get it, right, might say, oh man, that sucked. I want to get it. That might push him to work harder. So the next year he gets something. So it's tough, man. I don't know what the right answer is for that kind of stuff, but like I definitely see we're shifting in this country with like this like mindset of like, how do we parent and who does this and what's right, what's too much, what's too strict, what's not strict enough, I used to get, we used to get a little, switch. You take the switch from the tree, boom, on the butt.
I mean, I'm sure that's still happening all over the place.
Well, yeah, but if I took right now, I took a switch from my tree and my daughter, and I spank her on the butt, and somebody's walking by, they might say something to me, and I might get reported. In the 80s, probably not.
Yeah. And it depends on you hitting the boy, hitting the girl.
It does.
Boys maybe like, oh, he probably deserved it or something. But I think a balance is always something that we all should strive for. There's a balance. You don't want to go too far in one direction or the next. It also depends on the person. So it's like, do you understand your kid? And I think you can look at it, even just understanding a person like a basketball team where, really good leaders, really good coaches know how to press one player, but they're not going to use the same technique to the other player. So like this person probably needs more of an aggressive, like, because they can handle it. Yeah. That's what works. Yeah. Rather than the other one where it's more arm around the shoulder talk, right? Yeah. So
that's an excellent point.
The Phoenix Suns, and that was a back and forth at the end of when they got eliminated with DeAndre Ayton. I think I pronounced his name wrong. Ayton. Yeah. Where I didn't know this. I wasn't following it until I saw some articles and some news stories that they basically have to pep talk him all the time. Like every game, they got like, come on, man, you gotta help us out. And to a point where they getting their butt kicked, and the coach is like, yo, you quitting on us. And then all of a sudden he wants to fight the coach or argue with the coach. And it's like, how a man that big and gifted athletically need to be pep talked? So if you're too aggressive to him, he ain't gonna like that. So like, how you push him to be the best that he could possibly be? Yeah. And now he wants a max contract, and they're sitting there like, I don't know if I'm gonna pay you that.
He ain't max contract. No.
But that man is athletic. He's been gifted, blessed to do, and everything. He's so finesse. There's no power, anger. There's no Joel Embiid. Like, I'm going to run over you, Shaq type of stuff, or Giannis. I'm going to run over you. So get out the way.
He ain't got that. He ain't got that.
Right? So like, how would you get him to do it? Like,
yeah, I don't know, because I think, and that goes to, I think we're talking about like knowing your audience and knowing how to manage people and lead people and coach people and father or mother people, and kids are different. I think about like when I was managing restaurants, you got to talk to this host this way, this host you got to relate this way, because they're different.
They're all different people.
We're all different. We all want different things, and like we hear things and perceive things differently. We have different values. We have different things that are important to us. But like with a basketball player like that, who knows? Like he could have had moments in his life when he was younger that somebody told him one thing and he took it another way, and that's where he is, because he's just as big as Giannis. He's probably taller, but he doesn't have that mindset when he's on the court, right? And for me, it's like it's about like being, when you're growing up, you got to have somebody that's present, that knows you, that knows what kind of direction to give you, right? Whether it's a coach, whether it's your dad, they have to get to really know you. Like one of my best bosses always told me, Pedro, you got to get them here in the heart before you get them up here. You got to get, that's how, and most people that will work, right? You can't just say, I'm the manager, you got to do it. You got to understand like what they value, So maybe the coach doesn't understand how to, and sports is tough because you're in the moment. It's tense. You're losing. When you're losing, nobody can tell you nothing. As a professional athlete, I'm sure I'm not one, but like you're getting your butt kicked, like you're mad, and somebody's saying this, like
Yeah, I think as rumored that Monty Williams said, "You're quitting on us."
Yeah,
like he's quitting, and that got him all wound up. But what happened if he doesn't care as much about basketball as someone? He could.
Some people don't.
Some people don't. Like he's one of those guys. Like, hey, you're tall. Go play basketball. He doesn't love it.
He might not. There's been a lot of players and people that are like that. There's been hip hop guys that make albums and they stop doing it. Yeah. And they're even successful. They're like, I ain't got the passion anymore. I don't want to do this. Like, I'm not passionate about it enough. I think we see it in a lot of lines of work, especially in entertainment, because it's like, you're always trying to do something for somebody else. Somebody always has an opinion of you. It's like, well, I just want to do what I want to do, right? Just because I'm 7, Kyrie's got a little bit of that. He's always getting at the media like, hey, I'm just a professional. I'm a basketball player.
We don't like that. As a fan that's passionate, that care probably too much about this.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want you to cry. We want you to be like the New Orleans Pelicans coach. We want Willie Green, where he gets limited, he's crying. And I'll tell you, man, when I watched that, I choked up too, man. I don't even care about the Pelicans, but when he lost, that's what, like, damn, he cares so much.
Yeah.
He cares so much.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, I want a coach like that. You know what I mean? I want a team that the coach cares that much. Even though maybe you can say, well, there's a lot of other things to be more upset about. But I think that's what people want passion. They want you to care a lot. So
they do, but you just said it. You want somebody like that, right? I want somebody a little more like Steve Kerr, somebody like maybe
Popovich,
Jackson.
More.
Somebody that's like a little more calm.
Yeah.
I want a calm coach in the moments. Like a Greg Popovich, he does too much for me. Like he's too wild. Like he's a great coach, but he's like, like a Bill Belichick. I want a calm dude, because sometimes the too passions you can get too. You can go too many.
You're right. College, kind of like too much college basketball.
Yeah,
like they need. I guess to get the kids going, you got to be.
Yeah. So like with college basketball, you got like the Tom Izzos and Mike Krzyzewskis are always just like yelling a lot. I like the Jay Wright from Villanova. He's a chill. He knows what his team needs to do. He's got them prepared. He doesn't have to do a whole lot in the game. Like when I played basketball, like I always like my coaches to be a little more chill and like trust us. You know. But you want somebody that's more passionate, because that might get you going. So, and it's the same.
The last good coach the Knicks ever had, and yes, I'm in New York City, Brooklyn.
The Knicks. They had a
Jeff
good year last year.
I like Jeff Van, and that dude.
He was passionate.
He was passionate to a fault. He almost got his head kicked and breaking up fights to the Knicks. Back when basketball used to be about the physical stuff, but now it's a whole different thing.
No, I know we're going off subject, but we got to talk about this. Do you remember when I think he wrapped his like legs around Alonzo Mourning?
Yeah. So Larry Johnson and Zoe were about to get it.
Who you got in that fight? Who you got? Larry Johnson or Zoe in that fight?
You know what? If that was Larry back in the Hornets, he would have took care of Zoe. But that was back, like Larry had back issues. He wasn't high jumper like that. So I think Zoe, if he had like good, the jab, he got a good arm, he got the reach on him.
Bigger, but I'm going with Grandmama. I'm taking Larry Johnson. I mean,
he was an athletic freak back in the.
He was a boss, man.
Full like a damn running back, just dunking on people's faces. But yeah, I remember that fight. I remember them in the Miami Heat would just fight all the time. I mean, it was another fight where Charlie Ward. I don't know if you remember Charlie Ward.
It was a point guard. Yeah,
I forgot. PJ Brown picked him up and like, I don't know if he tried to pile drive him or something, but he picked him and kind of dropped him, and they was about to fight it.
Yeah,
I miss those 90s NBA.
No, the 90s Knicks. I mean, I'm sorry, but my Bulls, you guys couldn't get past the Bulls.
We couldn't get past them. Yeah, I did not like the Bulls.
I mean,
I was just tired of win, but you knew they were better. Okay. Yeah, no, Jordan. You can't be. Jordan denied a lot of people championships, so it's not. Hey, now you appreciate. Like, I gotta appreciate Jordan. Watching that documentary is.
You know, all I ever think about sometimes is just seeing Patrick Ewing sweating on that foul line. I was listen, I'm not a Knicks fan, but I like me some Patrick Ewing. I just always like Patrick.
Oh, yeah, man. From Jamaica, man. Like, I love his sneakers. I bought a pair a couple of years ago. I love how the sneakers look. I just like those.
Was he Reebok? He was Reebok, right? Or was he Reebok or I can't remember. Converse?
I think it was Converse.
Was it Converse maybe? Okay, yeah.
I think he still owns his stuff, and I think you can still buy it. I love it. The colors, it's so 90s. And
the colorway, the Knicks colorway was. I remember those Reebok pumps that had the orange pump on the tongue, and dude, those are. I mean, I would wear those now. I wouldn't buy them, but I'd wear them. I definitely rock those.
Sneakers for some reason are able to still translate. I mean, there's still people buying Jordans. That are older than they are times through like 30-year-old designs, but still sell well. I think that just.
And you know what? I've owned a couple pair of Jordans in my life, but I think some of the Jordans are the ugliest shoes I've ever seen in my life. Some of the Jordans, some of them.
Some.
The newer kind of Jordans look so bad to me. Like I like the OG. But like some of the new stuff looks really
because we're old now. See, I don't want that new stuff to kid town.
I don't want that.
All right. Before we end this, I want to talk about one more song. Auntie Diaries.
Yeah.
That one is another deep one. And after this, you could probably check out the social media stuff. They're just a little bit too sensitive to the fact that he used the F word.
Yeah.
Too often, but I'm like, the guy's expressing himself. This is a confessional. He's telling us how he got to this point where he understood that he has to accept his family members for who they are.
I look at it as a positive. I don't look at it as a negative. So people, I think we hear a word sometimes and we're like automatically become offensive. We're offended without listening to everything else that was said.
Yeah.
And how he's I think it's like a love song for his aunt in some ways. Like he's paying her homage for being herself, right? Yeah. And like I don't understand why people would be offended by that. But
I think that's where we are. Where I think the social media gets to a point where they post something, you get an emotional reaction to it, even though you really didn't take a step back to get the whole context of the situation. But he's saying it was back in the day when we used that word. It was, comic relief. It was supposed to be something funny. Yeah. Was it intended to be painful or hurtful? No, it's kids. We all grow up. Kids could be really cruel. Sometimes it's not. Kids don't necessarily have the mental capacity to kind of think of everything about what would happen when they say certain things, the results of every action. That's why it's important to have a family, mother and the father, to let them know, hey, when you say this is how you make people feel. A lot of times you're in school screaming all types of stupid things. So he's telling you that's what I did. I grew up and used that word, but I realized that word you shouldn't use anymore. I'm sure the last time he probably ever said that word was in the booth making this song.
Yeah.
I guarantee that he's probably not using that word on his
listen, I've used that word plenty of times when I was younger. Because it's like a way to within certain communities, it's a way to like say a guy that he's soft or something. Like we've done it. Like, hip hop has been in rappers have said it like, but now we understand like, okay, there's, it's not okay to use it, it's tough, man. Cause like you said, you mentioned comedy and this is entertainment and people use words for that kind of, to express something, but it's tough. I don't know. I know I've definitely used that word before, even without knowing how hurtful it could be to a community of people, right?
Yeah.
But now once it can be hurtful, you don't use it because you understand there's other words to use. It can actually make more sense within a dialogue, you know. But
yeah, he said, I said those F-bombs. I said them F-bombs. I ain't know any better. I didn't know any better.
yeah.
That's the thing. Like I remember saying the word a lot in junior high school, like 12, 13 years old.
Me too.
You don't know any better. But then as you get older, your responsibility, especially as you become an adult, is to know, at least have an idea of what you say. And there's always a context to everything. And there's always a place for everything.
Yeah.
You know, you out your place of work. Yeah, you may not be throwing around all types of words, but when you with your friends, whatever, you know what I mean? But it's always the context is always the most important part. And I thought it was a really powerful song. I enjoyed the song. Yeah, some people are sensitive about it, but they're missing the meaning if they spend too much about the words, the word that he is saying in the song.
Yeah. Well, he ends the song interesting because he talks about bringing a white girl on stage, and he's saying we could say the F word together, but then only if you let me say the N word. Right. So he ends it in a very like, ooh, that was tough. You know what I'm saying? Because
it reminds me of David Chappelle joke about the baby. Yeah. It's like, baby killed somebody, but it seemed like, you know what I mean? Like he's throwing something provocative statement there. And it's up to us to see, like, you know, does that make sense to you guys? Not, you know, I thought that was pretty cool too.
I think it is because I think a lot of times people are too afraid to have just a conversation about something. And I think what I really enjoy about people like Kendrick Lamar, David Chappelle, they're going to start a conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's not hide from the issues. Let's talk about it. We probably have more that we can relate to than we even can imagine, but we got to talk. Don't shut the door. You know, like, let's talk. Like, maybe we don't agree, and that's fine, but we can have a conversation. But if you don't even have the conversation, you just assume things, that's when things go sideways, you know?
Definitely. Pedro, we are coming up on an hour.
That was quick.
And it felt like it took 20 minutes.
Yeah, I know, right?
But since I'm not sure exactly how long or what's the limit to this on the podcast, we're going to want to end it by ranking the albums that he has. So it's Section 80, it's To Pimp a Butterfly, Damn, Good City, Mad City, Good Kid, and Mr. Morale. What is your rankings?
So I have Mad City as 1.
Okay.
I have this album as 2.
Oh wow. Okay.
I do. Yep.
Okay.
I have Butterfly as 3, and I have Damn as 4.
4. Okay. And Section 80, is that a mixtape or that's an album? I guess that's more of a.
I don't. You know what? I don't. I think I've heard a few songs on that album, but I haven't heard the whole album from front.
So we're gonna go. I want you to go check out Section 8. It's pretty good. Like it's good. It may actually get in
Section 8.
Section 80.
80.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Oh, I see it right here. This is 2011. Okay, yeah, I've definitely heard. I've definitely heard a few of these, but I haven't heard. I'm ranking it based on like the other albums I've heard from beginning to end multiple times, and this album I did not.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you my rankings is gonna be kind of different. So I have Pimp the Butterfly 1.
Okay, interesting.
And I have Mad City 2.
Mm-hmm.
Damn is 3, and 4 is Mr. Morale.
So you have Mr. Morale. So Mr. Morale for you, I feel like, was a little bit of a disappointment.
I would say not. I mean, I can't be disappointed because there's songs I'm going to be listening to throughout ever from that album.
What are you missing from it?
Well, I you know what? Some of the hits, some of those radio hits, some of the songs will play and just feel good and just kind of go, you know, like it's a great album to listen to and reflect. But you know, the rest, even Damn, even the other 3, which all this could be intersectionally. I have my own personal. I think the Pimp a Butterfly just blew me away, especially.
It's a strong album. It's a strong album.
Yeah, like it is a little bit. There's some elements of that into Morale. Like he is again. He's kind of confronted with certain things. He is, you know, locked in the hotel room. Like he's.
That's the best album cover. That's the best album cover.
Oh yeah, that brilliant.
That's the best album cover.
Like I even tell you this. I'm trying to go and buy some record album, like some vinyls.
Yeah.
Kind of go back and like, just going back to the 90s type of thing. And I gotta purchase that one. Like I have a good list. I'm gonna just be old school, have my own little vinyl section.
Nice.
That one is Illmatic. It's that album. It's what's the J. Cole? I'm gonna get a bunch of like really the best one. Obviously, New York Notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die, like all those iconic album covers. I'm gonna get those vinyls. But yeah, To Pimp a Butterfly, I probably can listen to that anytime.
Yeah,
anytime. And he had a lot of really, really good, powerful, meaningful songs. But you can still play them, and they were, a little lighter compared to Mr. Morale. Morale is the most deepest, most personal, therapeutic album. So it's right up there. It's not an album I'm not going to stop listening to. But that is just my.
And I tend to gravitate towards. I like that kind of stuff. Yeah. If I'm running or playing ball or working out, I want to listen to, some DMX, or I want to listen to something like that. Right. That's just, or Jay-Z or Biggie or whatever. But like, if I'm out in the, taking a stroll, sipping some wine, drinking some, listening to music. If I'm doing some landscaping in the backyard, if I'm doing things like that, I actually like to listen to things that are going to make me think a little bit. I don't know. It makes me focus. So that's why I'm, Nas is my biggest. You mentioned your four. Nas is my number one hip hop artist of all time. It's probably nostalgic for me. My first album I ever bought was It Was Written. I bought it at Blockbuster Video. I saw it. I was like, who's this kid? Who's this guy? I had heard the song with him and Lauryn Hill, I think on like,
that was like his box. One of his big monster hits.
That was his big monster because, his first album, Illmatic, was not radio. This was his first big song. First big album. Illmatic is like, the first one. But so I bought that album and I listened to it. And back in the day, you open up and it had all the lyrics and the notes.
I love that.
It. So here I am. I think I'm 11. I'm looking at this. I'm like, this is odd. Like, this is great. And I'm relating it to the things I'm seeing when I go to Chicago, the things I'm seeing in the neighborhoods. And I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm 11 years old. I'm like, my mom's like banging on my door, turn down the music. What are you listening to? And she's Puerto Rican. She's like, play something else, Like, no, I'm listening to this. So like Nas always has and he's a father of daughters, and he's, his career's been kind of all over because he's got some songs. He's got a couple albums that I think are really bad. Right? Like, I think they're just like, he made them and he wasn't really into it. And Uchi Wally Wally, Coochie Bang Bang. And
that's the one. Yeah, Nostradamus is like the one album everyone gives some shit for.
He made it to get money, and I get it. But like, but that's my guy. And he's very, he thinks about a lot of stuff,
And he aged like fine. He aged. The music is getting better. Like, how are you getting better?
King's Disease 1 and 2. He did the album. He did the album that Kanye produced back 4 or 5 years ago.
I like that one too. One too.
Only 7 songs, but I mean some good ones. He's talking about political things. He's talking about the history of man. He's talking about a lot of stuff that I just really enjoy. So he's always my number one. But so that's why I think I ranked this album where I have it, because there's a lot of just things that make you think a little bit, and I'm in the time of my life where I like that. When I was younger, I used to listen to a lot of the stuff that was just like, straight just beats, and like, didn't care about the words as much. But I like the wordplay, man. I like to see how it's put together. I enjoy that now. And I think it's because I started my first hip hop album was that, so I'm coming back to that a little bit.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And your tastes changes throughout as you get older. You want more substance. So, again, it doesn't matter what album you pick from this artist. This guy is next level. He's mastered the craft.
Absolutely.
He's mastered the craft. Like, he's Yoda out
here. Some people will say J. Cole's one right now. Some people would say it's Kendrick. Some people might say Nas is still making music. Some people might say it's Kanye. Some people might say it's Drake. You can't go wrong with if you have one this way and one at 4, like, because there's still some good music to be listened to out there. So
definitely. But on that note, we're going to end this here. And I don't know, I think we discussed what we're going to do next week. Do you want to announce that real quick?
Let's do it. So
yes,
next week, to get a little teaser leading up, another teaser leading up to June 8th. Okay. will be the Kanye West documentary on Netflix. It's 3 episodes. We're gonna dig into that, watch that. I'm a lot of people. Kanye West pushes the needle. He's super controversial. Yep. He's from Chicago. That's where I was born. I'll say it now. You can hold it against me if you want. I am a huge Kanye West fan. Okay.
Yeah.
For different reasons than I am a huge Nas fan. For many different reasons, but we're going to get into that next week. Really looking forward to doing that. So.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic because I am a fan. I guess it'd be nice if one of us wasn't a fan and we can argue, but that's not going to happen. And it's going to be similar to this. We're going to kind of get a deep dive on what made him tick and what lessons we can learn. Like all right, let's remove the celebrity marriages and some of the other stuff that he's dealing with. Like, this man built himself when no one believed in him. Like, very few believed in him. No father in the home. To basically now he's a billionaire.
He's the richest black man. He's the richest black man on the planet, isn't he?
I don't know.
He's a billionaire. That's what I heard. I heard he's a billionaire.
I'll tell you that. And he's probably gonna go down as the greatest rap producer ever. Because it's a wild statement. The guy continues to make music. That's his thing. Compared to like other guys, I feel like, Dr. Dre, he went to business, kind of did the business route. He did that, and there's others, but like I think this is a very bold statement. He may go down as the greatest rap producer.
So that will be the one thing I'll think about. That'll be the one thing maybe we could be different upon next week.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I like what you're saying.
I'm like, okay, he's probably gonna make beats for another. What is he? The part in his 40s?
He's got to be 45 or something, probably.
He may be making beats at 60. It would be weird, but I think he's still gonna produce music. So that's why I'm just guessing.
I like that. We'll talk. I like that.
All right, that's a way great ending. Now, usually we'll have some ending music, but this is a teaser. We'll figure it out, right?
Teaser.
Thank you guys for checking out the teaser episode of the Pedro and Hannibal podcast. I'm Hannibal. This is Pedro. We out of here. Have a good time. Yeah, man. See ya.